Welcome to our second ever Macintosh Monday. I'm Mike and I am here to talk about the Apple news and rumors I didn't specify last week, but it's a lot of rumors. You know, there's only a few times a year we get true Apple news. We're going to start off with another rumor about the iPhone 15. This one's a little bit more believable at least. So it looks like next year's iPhone will continue to use Qualcomm's 5G modems. And the reason that this is important, because you're like, who cares really? The reason that this is important is because technically Apple bought Motorola's modem business a few years ago, but they still haven't made a 5G modem yet. When they bought it at the time, of course, 4G was the thing. So as far as 5G modems, Qualcomm's the biggest one in the game. Like, you got to go through Qualcomm if you want a 5G modem right now. Apparently, Apple is supposed to have a 5G modem available, but they've had some issues. So for right now, they're still going to continue to use Qualcomm until, of course, they can get their own process in place. And there'll be another part of the stack that they control. The thing that makes Apple's product so good is because they control all these parts of the stack. Like, look how much better their laptops are now that they're doing Apple Silicon versus when they had Intel. They're able to get performance gains by using their own chips and optimizing for those chips and having integrated controllers for like the SSD and all that stuff. It makes sense why they want to control as much of the stack as possible when it comes to the iPhone as well. And the modem is one of those things that's kind of eluded them. There were times when they made their own 4G modems, which were less performant than the Qualcomm ones, to be honest. We'll see if they ever get to the point where they're making their own 5G modems. Speaking of problems, this is actually not really a rumor. This is actually more news. So we're still waiting for iPadOS 16 to release. Obviously, iOS 16 has been out for a little while now, but we haven't gotten iPadOS 16 yet. And the reason is because there's a few bugs, especially with Stage Manager. So last week I talked about how they're bringing Stage Manager to the 2020 and the 2021 iPad Pros after they initially said it was only going to be on the M1 iPads, and they backtracked on it. But apparently Stage Manager just has a bunch of issues to begin with. So people that are in the beta right now are reporting a bunch of issues with Stage Manager, like the taskbar disappearing if you rotate the iPad, Mail app crashing when you bring up the keyboard, black borders appearing around Windows. Apparently there's just a lot of issues with Stage Manager, and people aren't confident that they're all going to be fixed by the final release. So it's possible that this iPadOS 16 might be buggy when it comes out. So if you do have an iPad, you might want to hold off a little bit. For me, I'm probably going to upgrade anyway, because if Stage Manager doesn't work properly, then I don't really care. It's not going to affect my workflow with the iPad that much. I mainly do thumbnails and some music stuff with it, so I probably won't realistically use Stage Manager other than just to test it and see how it is. But if you are concerned about it and you're waiting for that feature, maybe you want to wait a few more weeks after that release so they can work out some more of these bugs. We'll have to see what kind of state it's in when it finally launches, which is supposed to be sometime this month. So again, we'll just have to see. Speaking of launching, it's rumored that Apple might be launching a new monitor. So essentially, when Apple decided to discontinue the 27-inch iMac, we did get that studio display, which was like a cheaper, when I say cheaper, I mean it's less money than the Pro Display XDR, but it's still $1,600. So it's still expensive, but a lower price for Apple, which was essentially the 27-inch iMac display in its own chassis that you could hook up to the Mac Studio to make it feel like a 27-inch iMac. But what about for the higher end users that want something better, that don't want to go all the way up to a Pro Display XDR, that maybe want something that's the same size? Well, the rumor is they're coming out with a 27-inch display that's going to be mini LED, and it's going to support ProMotion, aka high refresh rate, 120 hertz. So it would basically fall in between the studio display and the Pro Display XDR. It's obviously going to be more money than the studio display, which is already $1,600, but probably less than the Pro Display XDR. So if the rumors are true, it's supposed to be coming out in Q1 of next year. Initially, the rumor was it was supposed to come out in October. Obviously, that didn't happen. They're saying because of supply chain issues. Of course, this is all rumors, so this might be completely wrong. But yeah, if we are going to see that new display, it's probably going to be sometime next year, which would make a lot of sense, because with them getting rid of that 27-inch iMac, they really do need a higher-end display for the higher-end Mac Studios. That's not just a gargantuan 30-something-inch display. People might want something closer to that 27-inch size, or something that's just cheaper in general than the Pro Display XDR. So I think this will probably come true. It would make a lot of sense for where their lineup is right now. We're also still waiting on that Mac Pro, which they said was the final product from the Transform. So I'm wondering how that's going to be when that happens, but who knows. And in our final story, there's one more rumor. We got possibly a new Apple TV 4K coming. So this wouldn't be a major upgrade if this is true. It will be going from 3 gigs of RAM to 4 gigs of RAM, essentially. And it would have a new Siri remote, which they just redesigned the remote with the last Apple TV. But the rumor is it might have the H1 chip, so it could be used for Find My to get its exact location, which would actually be handy because we do lose an Apple TV remote a lot. And also just a faster processor, of course. And they're also saying the price could go down slightly as well. So it'll be interesting if they dropped another Apple TV 4K this soon after just releasing one. It's not really a product that they usually update every year. So I don't know how true this is. I could see them possibly doing a new remote with the H1 chip so you can use Find My and get the exact location of it. That would be cool. And if they did that, it would probably be backwards compatible with the older Apple TVs anyway. Just like if you have the first generation Apple TV 4K, you can just buy the new remote for it. We have both. We have the first generation. Actually, we have 3 generations of Apple TV. So we have the HD, which was the original Gen 4 Apple TV. Then we have the first 4K and we have the new 4K. So I'm not saying that we'll probably get a new Apple TV if they release it, but I'm also not going to say that either. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I do have a video planned for this week. I got my hands on a new lock that I'm super excited to talk about with you. It's the first lock that supports Apple Home Key. So I'll be back to talk about that. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with all the Mike X Apple releases. And peace out.